Our next speaker is Lalla Mackenzie. Lalla is a Senior Manager and National Stakeholder Relations with the NBN company. We heard from our first speaker, Murray, about how much of a difference the NBN has made to his business, so I'm sure we're all keen to hear from Lalla about how much that is potentially going to be extended through the rest of rural and regional Australia. Lalla, thank you.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me here. It's quite weird, actually. I got on a plane at 5:50 this morning from Hobart and it was -2 degrees. Now I'm standing in Sydney and it's a little warmer, but not much, let me tell you. Today I'm actually going to talk about the National Broadband Network, and in particular I'm going to talk about Sky Muster. I'm also going to clarify a few furphies that are out there, and I'm also going to hopefully let you in on some secrets that aren't necessarily known out there, particularly when it comes to working out how to get your wireless, to get your Wi-Fi or to get your mobile signal extended or your fixed wireless signal extended. Okay. That was not me. Excellent. I can talk about the first slides. I can do this in my sleep, I promise. Okay, we're a government business enterprise. For many of you that don't know, our relationship is never actually with you. We have up to nearly 50 telephone or internet service providers that are our customers, and then through those guys, you guys are their customers. An example, Telstra are one of our telephone or internet service providers that do offer services over the National Broadband Network. We have 2 shareholder ministers, and I can tell you that I've been with the company now for nearly 6 years. I'm a veteran at NBN, and I've been through every election that we've had, every change of technology, and I can talk it in my sleep. I live 11 minutes out of the Hobart CBD. I can tell you that everyone around me has fibre to the premise, and I live at the base of Mount Wellington, and I am on ADSL, and I'm lucky to achieve 2 megabits per second if I get up at 2 o'clock in the morning to make sure that none of the school kids are actually sharing my data. So when we talk, I'm still not doing it. I think I'm holding my mouth wrong. There you go. Yay, thank you. Well, it's me. Been through that. Okay, so last election. Our company was always deemed to have 3 technology types: NBN fixed line network, our fixed wireless network, and our satellite network. They're broken up into 93% of the population will be receiving an NBN fixed line network. Post the last election, that network is now made up of multiple technology types: fibre to the premise, fibre to the node. We're now utilising HFC technology, and we're also going from fibre to the premise into a fibre to the basement scenario. So a building such as this, for example, we will come into the basement of this building, and how the building deems to get telecommunications to each of the other rooms is up to them. Our NBN fixed wireless network has been rolling out across the country for around the last 4.5 years. I can tell you this is one of the game changers for the National Broadband Network. But the next technology type is the one that I love to talk about, and I'll tell you why, because I have personal experience with it. So as we move through, I'll tell you what that looks like. Sky Muster was launched on the 1st of October 2015. It was a massive day in NBN world. I can tell you when that first rocket went up into the air, and I don't know if any of you watched it. We watched it from Sydney Optus HQ, and a bird flew into the jet of the rocket as it was going up. I don't think anyone breathed for those 5 seconds. Whilst the rocket went up and it was deployed, and it was a grand fanfare, I can tell you the next 20 days were absolutely critical. It had to get into its orbital slot up there in the sky and in space, and for those 20 days the signal did not come through until that last half an hour of the time that we had deemed. So we were very grateful that we received that signal, and now we're able to offer services. So whilst we did launch in October 2015, we do have a second satellite that is going up into the sky later this year. The combined satellites will service regional and rural areas that fall outside the fixed line and fixed wireless areas. So essentially, whilst we did launch last October, our plans for you, the consumer, were not opened until April the 28th this year. It takes a while to get a satellite into position and then to start offering services from that. Whilst we talk about the capacity with the Sky Muster service, and the gentleman that spoke just before me, I'll be able to go over what that looks like as well. What's the difference? Is anyone here on the interim satellite solution? Yes, thank goodness. I don't mean thank goodness, but yes. I know how much trouble you guys have had with that because my parents have been on it as well, and I'll tell you what the difference between that satellite and this satellite is. Essentially, on the old interim satellite solution, we leased space off that. We had one national and 10 spot beams with a spot beam of a 1 degree look angle. Essentially, it was a large spot beam that fit everyone into it, and that's where the capacity issues came into play, and that's certainly where the latency issues and sharing your bandwidth. With a long-term satellite solution, or the Sky Muster solution, we now have 101 beams per satellite and small spot beams of a 0.3 degree look angle. What that essentially means is we're able to fine-tune that for you. Now that's 101 spot beams now. With the launch of the second satellite in October, that will be 202 spot beams that are now available across regional and remote Australia. Essentially how I assimilate that to people is it's like having one freeway, and we've now opened it up to 202 freeways, hence why we're able to guarantee that you guys will not be in the same position that you are in now. How does it work? I don't know about any of you, but I always had this belief that the internet was owned by somebody, Mark Zuckerberg or somebody. The internet is actually not. It's a vehicle. It's a cloud that sits in the sky that we push the information up to and that we receive it back down. That's my lay version of it. From the internet, you need a retail service provider, and what we've done around the country is build 10 satellite-based ground stations. They're located all around Australia, which will alleviate a lot of the congestion issues that we have had because we're able to direct those spot beams back to the base stations to ensure quality of service. That NBN gateway serves to go back up to the NBN satellite and then down to a satellite dish and internal wireless network termination device that's installed in every single property around Australia. For everyone that talks about the NBN network and how long it takes and everything else, I need to tell you a few facts. There is no other infrastructure company in the Southern Hemisphere that is undertaking what we are at the moment. We not only have to design, we have to build, we have to maintain, and we have to implement the national broadband network. We have to go into every single property, lift phone, back-to-base alarm system around the entire country. When you look at the volume of work that comes from that, you can appreciate the scale and the amount of work that needs to be done. I can tell you that last Thursday we connected our 1 millionth customer. I can tell you by this time next year we expect to have 4 million. So that goes to tell you that it does take 5 years to actually build, design and implement a network, and then that ramp up then from then on will be quite quick. It is a game changer for farmers. You will now have around 4 times the wholesale download speed of the current interim satellite solution. The upload speeds equivalent to many of the wholesale speeds available over the other NBN technologies, and around 30 times more capacity. I can tell you the one thing that I'm incredibly proud of through the Sky Muster journey of what we have done at NBN. We've worked really closely with the Isolated Children's and Parents Association, and I can tell you that any child that now learns via a distance education service will now have a dedicated port that's on the back of our wireless network termination device in every single property where the child is eligible. Each child that is studying via a School of the Air scenario will have a 50 gig limit given to them, and it does not come off the family's bandwidth, and it does not come off the family's speed. That means if you do go over your bandwidth, your children are still able to study, and that's something that was never available before under the interim satellite solution. For anyone that is interested in that, if they do know of anyone that is studying via a School of the Air scenario, you need to go back to your State Department of Education and they will determine eligibility and inform us to go out there and make sure that that port does work. I'm not going to stand here and tell you what it means for farmers because each of you will use the internet differently. I can tell you that my partner and I, he's a National Technical Specialist for NBN. We only ever talk NBN in our household, oh my goodness. In our household alone, we have 3 laptops, 4 mobile phones, 2 smartwatches, 1 Surface Pro. Our televisions are all hooked up to our ADSL, our cameras and our refrigerator are hooked up to our ADSL. We need the NBN, and the majority of the time what we're doing at home is if we're not working, we're using video on demand because entertainment, I don't know about all of you, but I do like to have some downtime, and I will watch video on demand as well. Telehealth is the big game changer for me. My parents live in the dead centre of Tasmania. Up until 4 weeks ago, they were on the interim satellite solution. They've recently just been switched over to the Sky Muster solution. My mum has breast cancer. She's had a double mastectomy, and it was a 6.5-hour drive for her to go and see her oncologist or to get a prescription or do anything that she needed to do. What happened post the implementation of that, the Department of Health in Tasmania actually had a trial, and they put a telemonitor box into her property. It allows her to see her oncologist in real time, check her blood pressure. There's a little tube to look down her throat, check her ears, check her temperature. It has a little script on the side of it where her prescription is actually printed out, and in her case, her local chemist has an arrangement with the Department of Health. She has not had to leave the comfort of a living room, still being able to get the medication that she requires, and it's all bulk billed back through Medicare. I can tell you that makes a big difference for people that do live in regional and remote Australia. This is the biggest question we're getting at the moment: what is the ordering process? So if you take nothing else away from today, from my presentation, these are the slides to watch. Your service you actually have to place an order with your telephone or internet service provider of your choice. For Sky Muster at present, you actually have 8 telephone or internet service providers to choose from. They will then contact NBN to place the order on your behalf. And I will tell you that with the implementation of Sky Muster, we have a ramp up. For the first month of Sky Muster connections, we plan to do 5,000. The second month is 7,000, and the third month after that, and every month after that, it will be 10,000 connections per month. We're just about to finish the end of our first month, and we hit 4,900. We're a little shy of the target. We need more boots on ground, and we are looking for more installers. But I can tell you that we're on track to reach our second month's target. The reason that I tell you that is we've had to put a limitation on the retail service, the telephone or internet service providers that do place the service on your behalf. With the launch of Sky Muster on the 28th of April, we had 21,000 orders that the telephone or internet service providers had taken, and they need to then place those orders with NBN, and we're making them filter them through. If we had 21,000 orders drop into that box the first night, I can tell you we would never reach our service level agreements, and majority of Australia would be pushed back by months and months and months. So I'll go through that again. You need to contact the telephone or internet service provider of your choice. The next slot that they have available to place any orders with NBN is when your order will be placed. Once we have received your order, we will contact you within 2 business days to set an installation date with you, and we will also notify your service provider that the installation date has been set. The installation process: usually we will put a satellite dish on your property, either 80 or 120 centimetres in diameter, depending on location. A receiver and transmitter are mounted on the dish, and a satellite modem, which is actually the wrong terminology. We use it, I don't know why. It's actually a satellite network termination device that's installed in your property. Essentially, that has Ethernet ports on the back of it. You plug in your modem or your router, and that's how the NBN, it plugs into the NBN equipment. Installation of the NBN, regardless of technology type, around the entire country for the life of the build of NBN up until 2021 is absolutely free. The installation equipment timeframes are really important as well. So we do have service level agreements. 20 business days is the aim to complete a standard installation from the time an order is placed with an internet service provider for most categories. Remembering that that's when they place the order with us. It's 20 business days from then. In isolated regions on the mainland and in Tasmania, it may take up to 35 business days, and for limited access area, including those where it's only accessible by air or water, we have a 90 business days. That's Lord Howe Island and places such as that. Yes, we do have a fair use policy, and yes, we do have off and on and off peak. I can tell you that every other technology type that we offer has on and off peak as well. For those of you that are in the interim satellite solution, you would remember around April, May last year, something major happened. We enforced our fair use policy on the interim satellite solution and made the telcos start to rein everyone back and keep them under the policy agreement. So a lot of people were actually either shaped or cut off for that month. And B, I don't know what shaping looks like at 2 megabits per second. I can't imagine it going any slower. But I can tell you that people were very upset. It will not happen in Sky Muster Land because we will actually monitor the telephone or internet service providers to make sure that everyone is not going over their quota. We can't be in the same situation that we are now. But I will tell you it's no different to fibre to the premise or to fixed wireless. I'm really proud to talk about this. Over the last 6 weeks, we've been working in conjunction with grain growers doing roadshows all across the country. Myself, I visited central Queensland and met some amazing farmers, such as Andrew Bate. If anyone here knows about swarm farm technologies, I'll tell you what, it blew my mind, and I'm just about to do a national case study of them. That's the kind of technology that we're looking at. His biggest complaint to me was data. How can you possibly think that I can cope with 150 gig of data per month when I am running this amazing technology type? He's absolutely right. I can tell you people on fibre to the premise had exactly that same complaint up until March this year as well. We didn't release our business product offering until March this year. With the launch of the second satellite going up in October, it takes about 5 months to get it into its orbital slot and for it to send signals back down to us. I can tell you that once that's done, the product roadmap will be reviewed and commercial and bigger product offerings will be offered from that moment. Doesn't help in the interim, but we are talking to farmers about ways that they can actually save some of their data. The story about the iPhones downloading all of that data is absolutely correct. Your Windows do it too without you even knowing. What we're advising people is to actually schedule those for the off-peak times if you can, whilst we're in this interim piece of moving over to the commercial services. If you can schedule it, you can actually schedule a lot of updates to happen after hours so that your main usage of data during the day is being utilised for what you need. It's about working our internet smarter. This track that you see on your screen, what we've done is, and I mentioned the Grain Growers Roadshow because we proudly have gone along with grain growers, and I'll tell you what, the data that we've got from that and just how hard the grain growers crew work, I've never seen anything like it. We're pretty exhausted at NBN just following them. But what we realised was we need an NBN satellite truck. For anyone that may remember in the early days, we had this massive big trawler and it had all of the technology in it. We've now built 6 of these trucks. We're just about to start a roadshow all across the country in every single state with each of these trucks. We will have direct access to Sky Muster so that people can touch, feel and smell it in real time. We will have direct access to the fixed wireless network for exactly that same reason. And more importantly, now that we are classed as critical infrastructure, these become Wi-Fi hotspots in bushfires and floods and things like that. So these satellite trucks will be visiting a region near you in the very near future, and I would recommend going to see them if you get the opportunity. They have been purpose-built for regional and remote Australia so that we can showcase that the ISS is a thing long gone and the new Sky Muster technology is here to stay. So we expect the first one to start touring around Victoria at the end of June. The rest will be deployed at the end of July. So keep an eye on our website and certainly keep an eye on, we work very closely with ICPA, grain growers. I'm hoping that we will be able to get some coverage on their websites as well. That's it. Thank you.